Big following. That's the thing to keep in mind. If you have a big following and you become a danger to these folks, you are on your way out. All right, so we got that. Now let's look at this organization, what is it called? Turning Point America? Is that what they call it?
Turning Point USA.
Turning Point USA. We need to know the history of this thing. And I'm really surprised. I'm watching the news. Maybe I missed it. I haven't heard anybody talk about this organization. It was founded when? 2012. Who founded it? Well, Charlie Kirk founded it, but there was another founder named Bill Montgomery. Okay. How old was Charlie Kirk when this got started? He was 18. Yeah. When did he start it? The day after he graduated from high school. All right, everybody, sit back, think a little bit. Is it plausible that Charlie Kirk, is a spontaneous, natural creation? Okay, now he was obviously a talented speaker, a talented rhetorician, debater. He had star quality, no question, and he was showing it at 18. But how many 18-year-olds do you know who are to get something going? How many people know that he was Donald Trump Jr.'s right-hand man during the 2016 campaign? He was the assistant to Donald Trump Jr. for a whole year. Okay, how many people know the annual budget of Turning Point USA? Because he's just the tip. He was just the tip of a very large iceberg. How about $80 million a year? How many employees do they have? 5, 10, 20? How about over 600? This was a big, big, big enterprise. And all these things you can confirm on the internet. You don't have to take my word for anything that I ever say. Yeah.
It sounds like you're alluding to that he was selected or he was chosen.
I would say, and that's $80 million, a lot of money to come in every year, and managing 600. He wasn't managing those 600 employees. He was the star. He's like, like you're the rock and roll guy or whatever. You're playing the lead guitar, and there's like the roadies, and there's the guy, your manager, and the guy that's doing the negotiations, and the people that are planning out the tour. I mean, it's an army behind him. All right. So he was the front man for something. And by the way, the traditional conservatives, at least back in pre-2020, did not like him because he was divisive. And they also felt he was fudging the numbers a little bit, claiming more members than he had, and so on and so forth. Now, in terms of, in addition to having his touring group, his show, and remember, it's one thing to have a podcast or a Facebook page and have 1 million followers or 10 million followers. When you can go city to city and bring out the kind of crowds that he brought out, that's power. And one of his organizations, one of the organizations with which he was affiliated, was a 501c4, which is not a PAC, and it's not they call it a nonprofit, but it's an organization that allows you to bring in money and use it to get out the vote. There is a legal designation to do that. Karl Rove had one of those things. Okay, so this thing was not, in addition, I mean, $80 million a year, pretty significant business. In addition to being a pretty significant business, by the way, all the revenue, donations. Okay, $5 here, $10 here, and lots of multi-million-dollar checks. From whom? We don't know. Because when you are contributing to a 501c4, you don't have to declare who you are.
That's what I was gonna say. But it's coming from people that have a lot of money to give.
Yeah, and who want to be anonymous. So, I mean, who knows who's been giving him money or giving the organization money? That's the key. That's the key. There's an organization behind all this. Now, they claim to have chapters on 3,500 high school and college campuses. So a chapter means they've got like a leader, and that leader's recruiting kids, and they're having weekly meetings. And when Charlie comes to town, they all run to Charlie and they all tune into the show. And it's like all political organizations, it's a bit of a cult. And it was a cult built around Charlie. Make sense so far?
Yeah. Okay, I'm following.
Okay. Now, ProPublica looked into this cult, this organization. I mean, I don't want to disparage, it's just a group, right? And they found out that their finances were very sketchy. And one of the things you have to know about this group is again, their revenue comes from donors, and a quarter of their money is going to salaries. You've got 600 people on the payroll. That's a lot. And 60% or more goes to the travel expenses, the show expenses, and hats and printing and all that kind of stuff. Now, people that know about the world of politics know that there's a lot of money to be made in creating materials for campaigns. It is a cash cow, right? And the markups are huge and so on. So somebody somewhere, I don't know who it was siphoning off tens of millions of dollars every year in markups on printing and hats and t-shirts. So my point is, this was a huge enterprise. So let's move along from there. You have to excuse me because this is fresh information. All right. I don't know what that says. Okay. All right. Here's the problem with Charlie Kirk, and this is why he got hit. He was starting to ask some really uncomfortable questions. And I don't know if people have really dug deeply into his evolution in the last 6 months. But
we went over the article from the Gray Zone. We went over that yesterday. We did go over that part. So where he dived into that he rejected donations from Benjamin Netanyahu, and also that he did apparently speak to Trump about being against war with Iran. We went into those things that were in that Gray Zone article. Okay.
But he did things like invite Dave Smith onto his stage and let Dave Smith, am I giving the right name? There's so many names. Yeah. Okay. So, Dave Smith's not a pro Zionist, right? And he got on the main stage at one of their events and said, you people, you say you're pro-life, and yet you're letting babies getting killed in Gaza. He said that in front of that audience. And Charlie Kirk let him say it. And when people booed Dave Smith, Charlie Kirk had stopped, let him explain. And this, I know people don't like him, and I'm not a fan either way, one way. When you look at the videos, he was starting to really talk about Israel a lot. And I'm drawing a blank on the guy. Who's the evil-looking guy that wears the black yarmulke? The young guy,
Ben Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro. Doesn't he look evil? I mean, he looks like a cartoon villain. My understanding is people need to check this because some of this is fast. The day before he was killed, Kirk aired a segment with he and Shapiro, and he was asking Shapiro, "Hey, what's the deal?" And you could see Shapiro turning 10,000 different colors of rage as the question was being asked to him. So now here's the problem with Charlie Kirk. Sorry. You're Israel. And we've talked about this before. What are Israel's strengths? One, it's got nuclear weapons. And two, it's allowed to bribe any congressman. And they've actually, think about this, folks. They've corrupted our entire Congress, except for maybe one or two people. Every single person in Washington, we know for a fact, is on the take for Israel. Therefore, we're not represented. We have a group of criminals posing as legislators in the U.S. Congress, and that is the result of Israel and whoever else is able to shovel money at them. All right, so those are their two secret powers. But in terms of their political base, the most important political bases for them are Jewish Zionists. Okay, they've got them in the bag. They don't have to worry about the Jewish Zionists. They're not going anywhere. The big one, though, is the Christian Zionists. They cannot afford to lose the Christian Zionists. And Charlie Kirk was plugged in to the whole world of young, idealistic, enthusiastic, energetic, activist Christian folks who were told to love Israel, but like everybody else, were saying, wait a minute. And now Charlie Kirk is starting to repeatedly bring up the issue of maybe we need to ask some questions. The killers in Israel absolutely could not let this guy live, period. He had to go. Because if he turned that demographic, he already had 3,500 chapters, right? And it's not like he had 3,500 people that subscribed to his YouTube. He had 3,500 leaders on 3,500 different campuses, high school and college. And we've seen how the Zionists have lost their mind when people protest on college campuses. what were they going to do when 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 Christian campuses that had been in their pocket suddenly start asking questions? So this is why Charlie Kirk was killed. To me, there's no question. He was a grave threat to the future of Israel. So that's why he had to go. So now we have to ask, does that mean Israel did it? Well, to answer that question, we would have to actually do things correctly, like gather evidence, right? Put evidence in a case, in a trial, look at the evidence, have people discuss it and debate it. What's the likelihood of that happening? Likelihood is very, very close to zero. Now, here's the reality, and this is a sad reality. A woman gets killed, okay, is murdered. No one knows who did it. If she's married, they're going to talk to the husband, because unfortunately, statistically speaking, you're more likely, it's tragic to be married, but to be murdered by somebody you know than somebody you don't know, and somebody really close to you than somebody not really close to you. That's just a fact. So the cops are going to have to talk to the husband, right? Now, if the husband, it turns out, has a girlfriend on the side and has an apartment on the other side of town, and after the wife is dead, he and the girlfriend are in Puerto Vallarta drinking Mai Tais on the beach, collecting the insurance money. Oh, now we've got a suspect. So we know that Israel had to get rid of this guy. So is a suspect. Okay, and they need to be treated like a suspect. Of course, they never will be. But those of us who are intelligent and have eyes that can see know that Israel is a suspect. So no one should say or can say Israel did it, but we can say, oh, Israel's a suspect here, because boy, did they had survival motivation to get rid of him. This guy was possibly the worst that could happen to them would be for Charlie Kirk to really turn and say, you know what? I was raised a Christian. I'm in this Christian thing, and I'm looking at what's happening to these children, and I just can't go there anymore. And by the way, you don't think the Israelis were surveilling every breath that guy took? They not only know his public, and in public, he was outspoken. They know what he was saying to his wife in bed. And if he was saying, darling, I don't know what to do here, I bet they have that. I bet they have that. I bet they knew he was getting even closer than we knew. Now, you may not like him, and I get it. But the power play here is if he came out against Israel, it would be like a nuclear bomb going off for them. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I just want to say to everybody, I think it is different when you compare the three, right? Like, so if you were to look at Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, and Ben Shapiro, all of them have a large following. But remember, when Candace was fired from the Daily Wire, a lot of people moved on with her, right? So she went and did her own thing, and she didn't seem like she lost any support, in my opinion, based on what I'm seeing. Like, she's growing very, very well. So there's that piece. But when you point out the numbers, this is what I was telling people. I think Charlie Kirk had an even more massive following, especially on the ground, because he was going to the colleges to speak to all these kids. So it's like having him turn, like if he were to say, you know what, I can't support what Israel's doing anymore, that would be a big, big major blow. And we have that poll that shows that younger people are moving away from Israel. That's not just younger people on the left, that's younger people on the right too. So yeah, it's I get where you're coming from. I get you.
You know, one of the themes of his following is America First. And we have video, I'll send it to you, maybe you can run it on another show sometime, where he actually brought chapter leaders together on a stage and asked them what they thought about Israel. And he let them say what they wanted to say. And he said some things about Israel that were not really complimentary. So yeah, having a ground game, let's talk about, like in politics, for example, you can have the greatest ads in the world, you can be on TV all day, but if you don't have people getting out the vote, you're not going to win. Well, Charlie could get out the vote. In fact, he was instrumental, I would say, one of the instrumental factors in Trump winning, because he got out that youth vote. It's all hot air unless you have a ground game, and he had a massive ground game. Which would have worked against the Zionists had he activated it on behalf of the women and children and men and being killed in Gaza, which he might have been on the verge of doing. And again, we only saw the stuff on the surface that he was saying in public, which was pretty strong given his position. We don't know what he was saying in private, but I guarantee the Zionists knew every word he was saying. All right, so let's go to the actual case itself. So what the Keystone Cops, right? It's just the Keystone Cops over and over again. They all should be wearing those big long hats and, you know, with a big badge. And I mean, it's just that they're just jokers. And then I'm watching all these YouTube, and they're bringing on, you know, former FBI agent. I'm like, did you guys ever do anything? Or did you just read things off of cereal books? All right, so the first thing is gunshot residue.